Hello, loves. It's me, Dave Makes Noises. Just wanted to thank everyone who came to hang out with us on the live stream on Friday. We've got another one on the book soon. Stay tuned for the announcements. Now, without further ado, I beseech thee, DMs and longtime D&D players, what legendary move in a campaign will live on forever in infamy, good or bad? Part 1. I was playing with a guy who played a halfling with high charisma. While going through the forest, we were surrounded by 10 bandits who wanted us to go with them at knife point. There were 3 of us, and this was pretty early in the campaign. The campaign made a turn none of us were expecting by saying that he would suck all their dicks so we could pass. He rolled for it, and with that infamous roll, the DM let him suck those dicks. All 10 of them, individually. It took ages for him to get to all 10, but he finally did it. Well, once he was finished, like once they were finished. Haha, am I right? The lead bandit said they were still taking us to their camp because they never agreed to let us through in exchange for the BJs. So that whole exchange just led us to look at our friend in a different light, that at the slightest inconvenience, he just thought, better suck these dicks. Oh, this shit's so good. Oh my God. My players tied 2 boats together and started a country. They called it Boatlandia. Over time, they took over more boats and kept adding them to this boat city in the middle of the ocean. I've added a Boatlandia as a major city to every campaign I've hosted from then on out. Edit. One of the players dropped alchemist fire on a boat and destroyed the entire town. The rest of the party was pretty mad, but he got a ton of XP for killing so many people. Whew! That took a turn. That got dark. Our DM was bringing the party from the backwoods of our elven village to the big human city for the first time. And this involved an encounter with an NPC who really wanted to buy my mule with a totally legitimate drawn note. Old-timey check. The only problem was I'd rather have the mule than the money, but this was a pushy NPC, and I ended up asking, "Why do you want my mule?" NPC, "Breeding purposes." The entire campaign ground to a screeching halt as the entire party argued with the DM that A, mules cannot breed, B, it should not require a knowledge nature roll for my character to know that, and C, the DM has clearly fumbled his duh check. Back to the game. In response to the nice elven hick lady's baffled, confused, "How?" the NPC laconically responds, "I have a device." This has been this friend group's catchphrase ever since, and that is real friendship. We needed to defeat a large dragon that would be difficult to fight, so we came up with a plan. We would frequently come up with creative solutions instead of just fighting the major enemies directly. My character, who was a chemist, had the knowledge of how to make gunpowder, and there was a village nearby where I could get all the supplies I needed to make a crude pipe bomb. One of my friends went to the town and asked for the corpses of any recently executed criminals. He got high rolls during negotiations with the town's government. He then proceeded to put the 3 bombs that I had made inside 2 corpses. We then left the corpses outside of the place where the dragon lived and hid nearby while waiting for it to come and eat them. It eventually came and swallowed them. The entire plan hinged on the fire mage. She rolled high and was able to ignite 2 out of the 3 bombs within the dragon's stomach, causing it to blow up in a gory explosion. Metal. Story time. At this time, I was DMing over Skype for some friends. Know that feel. Including one I'll refer to as Paladin, since he always plays a Paladin. Know that feel. It was one of my first times as DM, and I decided to pull a prank on Paladin. The party walked into a tavern and was greeted by a woman who asked the party for help retrieving some heirloom that a gang of kobolds stole. The party finds the kobolds, kills the kobolds, grabs the heirloom, and returns to the lady. The lady thanks the party, drags Paladin to a back room of the inn, and closes the door. I now have my player's attention. She takes off her gloves. Everybody in the party isn't sure if this is really happening. She takes off her coat. Everybody is laughing now that they know that this is really happening. She takes off her skin. The party goes silent. Paladin is extremely nervous and confused. Turns out the lady was a succubus, and she nearly took out the party after mind-controlling Paladin. We had fun that night. A few weeks ago, I played as a player for the first time before I'd only been a DM. I was playing a human celestial warlock with +4 to charisma. A young dragon attacked the town, killing the mayor, and I think we were supposed to run, but we somehow defeated it. While the other players were trying to figure out how to prevent further attacks or who was responsible, I told the DM, "I'm going to run for mayor." So far, it's been working. party is in a large cavern deep in a dungeon with no easy way back to the surface. They are in a nasty fight with the dragon. The dragon is winning and they are trapped. They can't climb out. The dwarf fighter is in bad shape. One more attack will kill him. The dragon goes in for the killing bite. At the same time, the dwarf pulls out the most useless magic item ever, a Qual's feather token. He slams it into the ground as the dragon bites him in half, killing him. Qual's feather token, tree. A token that causes a great oak to spring into being. 6-foot diameter trunk, 60 feet height, 40 feet top. Suddenly, a fully grown oak rams straight up the dragon's throat, knocking the dragon's lower jaw off, killing it, and pinning its body against the ceiling 50 feet up in a kind of massive grisly trophy, dripping blood and acorns. The last 10 feet of the tree breaks through into the floor above. The rest of the party is able to climb up the tree to escape the level above. This shortcut allows the party to get back to town and raise the fallen dwarf in barely enough time. A few hours later, and he would have been dead for too long to be successfully raised. I had one player who lost a bunch of money, but not much considering their wealth, through late-night barn fight club betting. Did I say that right? I did. Unreasonably upset about this, he determined to find out who handled the money, and it turned out to be party friend and confidant Bob the farmer. Well, he decided to follow Bob home, snuck up behind him, and said he would like to hit him in the head with a club. Okay, no worries. Roll. Well, that's a natural 20. Bob goes down hard. Player scoops up the coins and books it out of there. Player immediately started beginning negotiations with the other players about how it would be better if instead he be allowed to rewind and replay that event. The players are dubious, but he eventually convinces them to agree to it. So he turns to me and says that he'd like to do it again. No dice. It happened. Next morning, Bob is found on the road, severely injured and requiring care. Through all the attempts of local healers, they are unable to get his skull back together quite right, and Bob is bedridden and unlikely to be able to walk unassisted ever again. Player tries another rewind negotiation at this point. No dice. Being such a good friend of the party, Bob starts requesting the player to come sit by his side while he recovers, and spends much time reminiscing of the good times they had together and how he is one of his only true friends and how much he appreciates the support during such a difficult time. The player even led a search party to find the perpetrator, but somehow did not find the culprit, despite a number of near misses. One player talked to a single NPC for like 2 hours, just him. And this is a guy who generally doesn't really participate. He was like super high, so he kept asking the same question just with a little bit more. It was hilarious. I had a character that constantly sought power due to having a little dick complex. He was resurrected into a body with a micropenis, you see. The quicker and easier he could get power, the better, and he wouldn't heed the risks involved. When the opportunity arose for him to make a deal with the snake god Zahir, he took it. In exchange for becoming Zahir's vessel, he would be granted enormous power. He was obviously deceived by Zahir, snaked by the snake god, and he was transformed into a gargantuan snake right there inside the temple, which was near the center of the city. But before losing control of his body, he managed to shout for the entire city to hear as they bore witness to the giant beast that emerged from the city center. I got a big dick! This literally happened on Wednesday night. My players destroyed the entire Forgotten Realms with a wall of force and a dust of dryness pellet. Players are fighting Big Boss. Boss has just chowed down on the party's druid, nearly killed her. Wizard casts Wall of Force as a sphere centered at floor level to trap the boss in there with the pally and the monk, dumping the druid outside. The monk decides to smash a pellet from a dust of dryness that had been used on a massive pool of holy water to drown the demon boss in holy water. 3,375 cubic feet of water appears in an indestructible 2,094 cubic foot hemisphere. Assuming real-world physics, this compresses water volume by 62%. No big deal, right? Only water doesn't like to be compressed. It really doesn't like to be compressed. Maybe a physicist could give an explain like I'm 5 or a more accurate assessment on this. But according to our calculations, this results in cataclysmic nuclear reaction as the water begins to fuse with itself. Everyone, including the boss, the pally, and the monk, and probably the entirety of Faerun when the Wall of Force drops, dies. Lessons learned by players. Electrostatic repulsion is a harsh mistress. Lessons learned by DM. Probably shouldn't allow real-world physics in D&D. On my first time DMing Pathfinder, D&D for people who don't like maths. It was also me and my entire group's first time playing tabletop. The pre-made mission was to go into a cave and kill the Black Fang, who was a slightly weaker than normal black dragon. And by weaker than normal, I still mean a party of 4 level 1s is gonna die unless they're really fucking lucky. The idea was to need to force a retreat, or the encounter is almost certainly gonna end with a TPK, and my group did, at first. Throughout the dungeon, there are goblins and skeletons. The party had been role-playing their fucking hearts out and were on okay terms with the goblins, the ones they didn't kill. Cue them fronting up to their second encounter with the dragon with a fucking squad of goblins and their skeleton best friends for life. It was ludicrous, but they roleplayed hard, and so I let it slide. The big team combat was difficult, but we made it work. Ended with the party shoving a goblin down the Black Fang's throat to temporarily disable his breath attack and then ganking the fuck out of him. Stood out as a super memorable intro to Pathfinder, despite me basically DMing major parts of the game away because of the rule of cool. Hawaii-inspired campaign with were-creatures and stuff of that like. The entire campaign went as follows. Group boats out to Roan Key for a vacation on some islands. The moment they got there, they find out that were-beasts have been running rampant, and that there is always a full moon. Group needs to go the long way to the main city, Oberyn-Look, because the Kingsguard is trying to stop the infection from getting there. Group traverses around the island, fighting various creatures. First, a helpful Aarakocra they meet becomes a were-vulture without realizing it, and they have to put him down. They are attacked by a were-octopus on the beach and learn that the infection is the work of either imps, goblins, or tieflings. They fight a were-scorpion in the forest, learning it's not just animals that can spread it, but bugs too. And while all this is happening, they pissed off a crazy Terramancer living on a beach early on, so he stops by randomly to kill them. They get to Oberyn-Look, where they learn from Mayor Oz that they've successfully kept out all werebeasts except one, and task the group with killing it. The group comes across it, but it's a male drider, not a werebeast. They try to kill it, but it escapes. The group returns to the mayor. He compensates them and gives the task to his own police force. The group fucks off and does side quests to get stronger. They help several people around the city. Some dwarves give them weapons. They help a church, where the matriarch, Mother June, teaches the paladin some new healing spells, and they aid an artisan named Peterson with money issues, giving them all some good stat buffs. All in all, well played out trip. The group island hops, but come back to the city when they find out that it is, in fact, ancient goblins creating the werebeasts and placing a full moon mirage over the islands. They go to tell Oz, find out that he's been captured by the goblins, who are now in control of the city. They hold him hostage and demand a surrender. The group fails all their charisma checks and drop their weapons to spare the life of the mayor. The goblins take the weapons and let the mayor go. Surprise! Mayor was a master goblin warlock in disguise. He and his cronies were creating the werebeasts to use as weapons and were keeping the city clean so that they could evacuate it and infect boatfuls of people traveling around the world. As the group tries to reason with Oz, the Drider appears and starts beating the piss out of him. The group uses the confusion to grab their weapons and launch a full-on battle against the creatures. They team up with the Drider and chase the warlock throughout the Capitol building, leading into an epic dungeon battle. The goblin falls to the ground dead. The Drider transforms into a human, the artisan from before. It was at this point my paladin caught on. He just called me a motherfucker and leaned back in his chair, much to the confusion of the other party members. And so I ended with the following epilogue. As you stand above the body of the fallen warlock, you sigh a sigh of relief. This may have been your most dangerous quest yet. A bite from any of your foes could have turned you into a vulture, an octopus, a scorpion, a lizard, a chameleon, so many seemingly harmless creatures. And as you stand over the fallen goblin, his green skin sagging off the corpse, you look at the artisan with hope, knowing that no matter what, the island is always under the protective watch of Peterson, the friendly neighborhood Drider man. Let that one marinate for a second. Audible confusion from the group, followed by overdramatic anger. The past 6 months had all been a giant fucking meme on my part. It was all a Spider-Man reference, paced out so they would forget enough about what they had just done to not notice it. Hell, the locations were all anagrams. Roan Key is New York. Oberyn-Look is Brooklyn. The characters were also referenced without notice. Mother June is Aunt May. The angry gnome who ran the printing press was Briar Bradley Barton. And then there was the Terramancer at the beach. Earth Wizard controlling sand. The Sandman. It was so stupid. It was awesome. And they say I can't DM anymore. Hello, my sweet little snack. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching this video to the end, you rosy-cheeked little fucking cherub you. If you're new around these parts, please say hello in the comments. If this ain't your first tour with us, please share a fun fact in the comments. Maybe I'll use the best ones as Tinder intros because I don't know how to online date all that well. So you'll be helping me spit big game, and that's always appreciated, my boo. If you wonder where all this Big Dave energy comes from, you can fuck around and find out by looking up our D&D friends over at Adventurers Coffee Company. You can use our discount code Mr. Ripper for 10% off on some mighty fucking beans, dude. Please be a sweet darling and check out our upcoming live stream schedule. By the time this video airs, we will have one, I assume, because it's about to get a whole lot cozier over here in Rip Daddy's house. You are in for a treat, and I am excited for all of us. Anyway, that's the scoop for today, kiddos. Check out our Discord. It's chaotic something in there. Check out our subreddit. Same, to be honest. And please sub for Nat 20s. Thanks again for watching, and we look forward to the next one.